Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'll be reviewing the Steinhart Ocean One Premium Black Ceramic. Now this particular model is a limited edition with this faded grey dial, and it's available on Gnomon Watches. I'll put the link in the description, and the price there is $530 US. Now, I didn't actually expect to have this watch. I was given this watch as part of a trade for a Seiko mod that I built. But I found it quite interesting. I really liked the dial design. I thought actually I should try one of these out because it is actually a sub-style watch. Obviously, it's an homage watch to this Rolex Submariner, which I wouldn't usually be that interested in. However, I do really like the case size of 42, and it's got a lot going for it. And to be honest, it's not been off my wrist for the last week or so. So I thought I'd make this video to share my thoughts on it. One thing that stuck out in my mind straight away was how similar in terms of specification, price, everything it is to my Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 600 Mark III. Wow, what a mouthful. This watch, these watches are actually surprisingly similar. So in a second video, which I'll upload shortly after this one, I'll be putting these head to head in a bit of a battle to see actually which one is the better option. So this one's about the Steinhart though, so we'll put the Christopher Ward away for a minute, and you can find that video on my channel very soon. So looking around the watch, let's do the basics first. I've already said it's 42 diameter, which puts it actually larger than a Submariner size. So it is an homage to the Submariner, however, they make it the size of more like a Seedwell or a SD43 or something like that. So for someone with larger wrists such as me, this actually is a great size. And I think the proportions and everything do fit very well. I like the fact that the bracelet is this oyster style taper. I think this echoes some of the older Submariner styles from Rolex. But the key thing with this particular model is this faded grey dial. So let's get the sizes first. So I've already said it's a 42. So the lug to lug measurement, and if we look, the bracelet does drop because of this sort of H-link end link. It does actually drop really quite steeply here, or there's quite an angle there, so it should be able to be worn on a smaller size wrist as well, although they do sell these in a 39, I believe. Maybe not in this particular colorway, but you can get an Ocean One in a 39. So I think in that sense, Steinhart have really nailed it with the sizes, because most people would like a 42 or 39 size, in my opinion. Now, a rough measurement is about 49.9, about 50 mil lug to lug. It's a 20 mil lug size here. And the other nice measurement is the thickness. Let's just grab hold of it. It is 13.4. All of this is actually very similar to the Christopher Ward, and that's why I'm going to be putting these head to head a bit later on. So, I mentioned this was from Gnomon Watches. This is actually an exclusive of theirs. You can also get this with a blue kind of faded dial as well, and that one looks super as well. I think they're both around $530 on the bracelet, USD that is, and this is supposedly a 50-piece limited edition. So they're only making 50 of these watches. However, in their blurb, they do say they could actually make more if there is demand for it. Realistically, though it is quite unusual, I don't really class this as that much of a limited edition. There's no numbered case back or anything like that. Looking around the watch, obviously let's start on the dial, because that is probably the most unusual thing with this one. And it is this kind of, it almost looks like a vintage style dial. There is AR coating on the crystal, but it is not like blue in color or something. So you do get actually quite clear legibility. Markers are all applied. We've got Mercedes hands, just like the Rolex, of course. The dial layout is very much Rolex. The Cyclops is very much Rolex. They don't have any sort of markings or text on the chapter ring, or Rehot I think it's called, so I actually like that, because that would have been probably too far of a homage if they were to write Steinhart all the way around there. It says Ocean One in red, which is quite a nice tone against the grey background. Steinhart at the top with the logo. Let me just move the hands out of the way a little bit. There we go. Really nice winding action and feel from the movement. I'll get onto the movement in a minute. Of course, screw down case back as well. So we've got that Steinhart logo with the sort of S with the crown. We also have that on the crown as well itself. The text at the bottom reads 300 meters, automatic movement, professional. And so I think the layout generally of the dial is really good on this, and I do like that faded color. It definitely makes this appear different to a Submariner. I don't think I'd ever wear one of their like obvious homages to like the Hulk or something like that, where it is literally looks identical from a distance. This one, at least, you know, to the enthusiast, they'll know Rolex don't do dials like this, so it's got to be something else. You know, you could argue either way, but I do feel like this is a nice balance of homage versus their own design. Now, I don't know if this is Gnomon Watches' design or Steinhart themselves. This is not available on the Steinhart site, it's only on Gnomon Watches. However, there are some nice colorways on there and nice strap options as well. Now, looking outside of the dial, we've got the bezel. I'll zoom out a little bit. So the bezel is a sub-style bezel. It's this matte kind of, it's actually all brushed case, I should say, apart from the sides here. The rest of it is very much matte, as well as the bezel itself. And the bezel I'm really impressed with, actually. This is one of the nicest actions on a bezel I've seen from a watch in this kind of price point. You know, it sounds consistent, it moves consistently, it's defined, it's not too loud, and there is a bit of backplay, there always will be. It's virtually impossible to make a bezel with zero backplay, but it is, for this kind of price, really, really good. I'm really impressed with that. Now, the bezel insert is ceramic and it's sloping up to the crystal. It's really nice and bright, like you can tell the paint in there that they've used. Let me just give it a bit of a wipe so you can see clearly. You know, there's not like any troughs of paint or anything. It's all been applied really nicely to a high level, and I'm really quite pleased with it. So really like the bezel on this. Moving further around the watch, the case is of course a sub-style case. Quite thin lugs compared to the super case of the current Rolex Submariners, but the overall size is bigger, so it kind of all fits together quite nicely. The bracelet I'll come to shortly, but let's have a look at the case back and the movement. Now, one nice thing with this model is that you do, and I think this might be the case for all premium models of the Ocean One, but you do get a really nice clear sapphire case back with some decoration on the movement. So they have got some blued screws in there. Let me show you, try and get into it at an angle. Or maybe perhaps they're not blued screws, but they are definitely they've definitely added some color and some decoration on this movement. It's not especially autorology or anything, but it is a nice thing to see. It's better than your typical just standard off-the-shelf movement. They've definitely added the rotor. They've changed a few colors and finishes. Nothing, as I said, out of this world, but it's definitely more interesting than your typical open case back watch. The printing around the edge is Steinhart Ocean One, depth rating, sapphire crystal, and I believe a serial number, but no limited edition number. Now, the bracelet is an oyster style, of course. However, there are a few limitations with this bracelet. It is quite comfortable. It's tapered, which is always a good thing. It is screwed, which is actually the first watch I have owned, apart from my Rolex, of course, which has a screwed bracelet. For this price point, I think that's brilliant. And having tried actually changing the links on this, it is such a joy to use a screwed bracelet system rather than any other system. Now, the bracelet itself is not quick release or anything like that. It does have solid end links, so it is a bit of a pig to get off, but I don't imagine really swapping to a strap on this watch. The clasp is not good. The clasp, though fairly solid, I'll show you this on the wrist as well. You've just got this kind of lift lock system, which isn't very refined, and then you've got, and it doesn't give you much of a click to let you know you've actually closed it, and then you've got this, but notice it's on an angle, and it seems to wiggle around as the bracelet flexes, so it's not the best design for the clasp. I would look to see if I can option another clasp or just order a different clasp if possible, because I'm sure that Steinhart probably do better clasps than this. Finally, they does have some adjustment, and actually quite a lot of adjustment to the almost, I think, I'd say like 80% of a link or something in there, which has allowed me to get it really snug on my wrist. So on the wrist, let's have a look how it looks. I have a 7 3/4 inch wrist, and I think this size suits me perfectly. This size suits me a lot better than an actual Submariner would. So if you've got a larger wrist and you're looking for a dive watch with these kind of specs, I would highly recommend looking at this or the Christopher Ward. We'll see which one wins in my other video, but if you're looking for a a Rolex Submariner homage, then I would certainly recommend this model. The movement, I forgot to say, is a ETA 2824, which has been slightly modified with just the visual improvements, just so it looks a bit nice through that case back, but the movement is really good, reliable, easy to service. Swiss made, of course, so Steinhart's a German company, but the watches are Swiss made. So it is a nice package overall. Now, I can't show you the box because I don't have it, but I believe they come in like quite a nice little box, or even kind of a watch roll type thing, with usually a few extra straps and so on. In terms of warranty and things, again, I can't really say, as I haven't tried it myself. I haven't bought this myself off the site, but I believe Gnomon Watches is based in Singapore and they offer a great service as well as warranty and etc. I think the standard warranty is around 2 years on these models. So disadvantages is probably the fact that it is still a homage. There isn't much of their own design apart from that dial, and the clasp is not very good. However, I would let those two things slide. For $530, I think this is actually a really good watch. It's really nice and slim on the wrist. Feels a lot slimmer than many other dive watches or dive style watches in this size I've tried. Really nice quality bezel, really nice movement, nice Mercedes hands. If you can get over the Submariner homage, then I'd say this was a really solid choice. And they do hold their value pretty well. They don't immediately drop too much like maybe some other brands, because Steinhart does seem to be somewhat of a household name. So here's the lume shot. I just charged it up on a light I've got here in the house. This is a blue style lume, a super luminova lume though. As you can see, if I put the UV light over it, there's quite a lot of lume all over the dial, on the markers, on the hands, and it does shine up pretty well. Not quite as good as Seiko, but nothing does. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. There's also a pip at 12, of course, on the bezel. Really nice watch. I'm really pleased that I did the trade for this, and I'll probably consider Steinhart more carefully in the future, because I'm really that impressed with the quality on offer here. Let me know if you like this video. Please subscribe. I know a lot of you watch without subscribing, and I would love you to join me on this channel. I post reviews like this, Seiko mods, and various other things, but not too often, so I won't clog up your news feed on YouTube. Please consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.